everything that ensued.
This was a case that started all the way back in 2015, and it twists and turns for, well, for quite a long time, until right now, actually, if you can believe that, so buckle yourself up. Before we get into it, please subscribe to see new stories from the dark every single week. Now, let's give it a go. So this all begins in the small town of Pendleton, South Carolina. A pretty enough place, very small, only a few thousand folk living right in there. It is an old town. In fact, it is on the National Register of Historic Places. So look at you, Pendleton, way to go. But of course, you know, being an old town, it's probably got a dark history. There's enough time there to have a lot of skeletons and secrets galore. Pendleton lies close to Clemson and not really close to a whole lot else really. It's mostly home for families who work in the surrounding areas. The town of Pendleton, it sits in Anderson County, South Carolina, and there's actually a surprising number of murders and cold cases coming right from there, and not even touching the main topic of today's video. For example, in November 2012, a barrel was found in a lake in Anderson County. Inside that barrel was a body. That was the body of 37-year-old Andrea Mitchell. The very next day, they found another barrel with another body inside.
The Anderson County Sheriff's Office says the first barrel was found yesterday after receiving a tip from a passerby. It contained the body of a woman. Today she was identified, but her name is not being released. The other barrel was found around 3 o'clock this afternoon. As authorities work to determine the identification of this person, the Sheriff's Office is continuing to search Lake Hartwell for clues.
These cases would eventually be traced back to a John Michael Young, who murdered both of these people a month apart, subsequently dumping their bodies in barrels in Lake Hartwell. Their murderers were on Refuge Road. After that, then, was silence. It was on November 2nd, 2015, that a 30-year-old woman named Amy was walking across the lawn towards that particular house. She had just been chilling over the weekend with a brand new shampoo husband. She had 2 kids from a previous relationship, but they had been away for the weekend. She had a boy and a girl, Savannah and Brady, and her husband's name was Ross. Or, well, his actual name was Ross Moore, because, you know, just when you don't have enough Ross, when you just need a little bit more, well, as you would, he went by Ross Velarde and Amy Velarde. Now, Amy Ross and the kids, they lived on the same property. There was 2 trailers. There was the main trailer, referred to as a double wide, in the front, and that's where her parents lived, and then at the back, about 50 yards across the back lawn, was a single wide where Amy, Ross Velarde, and their kids lived. In the main house lived Kathy and Mike Scott. That was Amy's mother and her stepfather. And along with Kathy and Mike lived one of each of their mothers, Violet Taylor, Kathy's mom, and Barbara Scott, Mike's mom. So there was like 4 generations of the family living on this one property. The house was located at 2217 Refuge Road, a 6-minute drive from downtown Big P. But there were plenty of neighbors around, it wasn't terribly remote. There was the primary house where the 4 older folk lived in the front, then the Velardes and Amy's 2 young'uns in the back. So Amy's walking across the lawn that morning, hands in her pockets, whistling away, gonna go see her folks and both her grandmothers. Now, she hadn't seen them in a couple of days, but she thought they'd be home. Their car was out front, and Amy was a dog lover. She was all about it, so she hadn't seen the dog